I went to your website to look at the meeting minutes. I spoke in March and I spoke in February. And just to remind myself what I said or what others said here, there's no meeting minutes. And then I looked further and I didn't see any meeting minutes for earlier in 2022 or 2021. I was just wondering, is there a reason why you don't have the meeting minutes available? That's all I'll say. Thank you.
My name is David Patterson. I've lived in Hays County for 37 years at 16220 Remuda Trail, Buda, Texas. Good evening, Mayor Ord and council members. Thank you so much for all the service that you do. It's a sucky job, and I know it. For those 37 years, I have been working to raise awareness about the sensitive water situation here in Hays County. Most folks don't think. They just turn on the water and it comes out the faucet. And also most folks that live here are not aware there was a 7-year drought in the 1950s where it only rained 7 inches in 7 years. 7 inches a year. Our average annual rainfall is 32 inches. They had to burn the crops and slaughter the livestock. We talk about droughts. We ain't seen a drought since the 50s, but we're gonna. It's gonna happen. When? That's the question. During that time in the 50s, the population was 4% of what it is right now. Chew on that. Just digest that. You know, I'd rather not be here tonight. I'd be on my porch drinking a cold beer. But I'm here to ask Hays City Council members to be good neighbors in Hays County. There are 62,000 residents in southern Travis County and northern Hays County that are solely dependent on the northern section of the Edwards Aquifer. That's it. What you do over the recharge zone will have big effects, possibly. I'm asking this council to be a good neighbor, enlist the right sources and resources to find out exactly what can happen. Do all your homework, please. Please be a good neighbor, and please don't rush this vote. From what I've read, there ain't nowhere close enough to enough information to have a vote on this. Thank you very much. And I've been working with Milestone in Buda, as Milestone knows, but the more eyes that are on this situation, the better.
My name is Keith Whittington. I'm a property owner on Carpenter Lane, which this original agreement, or the agreement that I was privy to, showed lot expansion through essentially what I'm understanding is the 60 acres now that's been set aside for the spray zone. If that's not going to be the case, obviously that changes my situation, but I was going to speak to the fact that if there's going to be additional lot development that empties out onto Carpenter Lane, then that's a major change to that road, and the community needs to know about it. They need to know about the fact that the county is going to have to be involved in upgrading that road, and that Milestone is going to have to make some contribution to that in order to get that done. I certainly don't want my taxes to go up because you're going to put in a nice new development and then dump all those people out onto my street, which is not even a community, not even a properly maintained road with the county now. It's blacktopped, but that's it. And it's not, I don't even think it's 30 feet wide, or if it is, it's barely 30 feet wide. It's essentially, we have to slow down and pass each other on the road. So I would ask that that be clarified in the development agreement as to what is going to be done, obviously. I raised questions last month at this council regarding what is going to happen with wastewater, because at 1 to 2 million gallons a month you're spraying on this 60 acres, you're going to be adding essentially half an inch of water every day or every other day to this ground, and you're going to have saturation. If it's engineered correctly, yes, you can have that situation work, but you've got to be very careful about how that's done. I think that needs to be in your development agreement. If you're going to work with somebody, you need to have those controls, and you need to set out with the attorney what those ramifications are and who's responsible for it when it does happen. If you're going to do a MUD, now you're talking to a different legal entity, and how do those two things communicate with the city? I was concerned about the dispersal of that effluent, what kind of consumption was going to be built into these numbers. There's some disagreement on how that gets engineered, and typically it's to minimize it when you're under development, saying there's not going to be that much water, and then you know what happens later is that number goes up. So you're going to have more water than what you think or what you're designing for, because things start to leak, things start to wear out, and then you have that to deal with. If there's going to be a separate MUD that's going to handle the basically the effluent and the operation of the treatment plant, that's going to be separate. Obviously, it's a separate legal entity and wouldn't be associated with the city, but that was one of my concerns, is who's going to ultimately end up servicing this equipment over time. What are the design engineers going to do about how it's built? Atypically, you're going to under-engineer these things and you fix them later. So be careful about that. And again, the cost-benefit analysis in the package originally given to us, there was a $278,000 benefit that could easily be eaten up by your cost of operations if you have any. And in this original development agreement, there was some understanding there, it looked like to me, that you would be paying or accepting at some point in the future the roads, the infrastructure, and everything else if you were going to annex that piece of property into your city. If you're not going to do that, that's a moot point, but I think that's something that hasn't actually been settled yet. So I would just ask that you guys be aware of that, and making sure that we've done a cost-benefit analysis, because $278,000 does not look like a lot of money when you've got a lot of infrastructure to be maintained.
Carol Pennington, 1005 Bluebird Drive, Manchac, in Chaparral Park. Last meeting, I spoke about the regulations regarding the lot size, and Mayor Odom had mentioned that he was not aware of the regulations in your Hayes City Code, so I have printed these out for you.
No, I'm
Okay.
aware of what's in the city code,
Okay.
but I'm also aware that our city has not followed that because we have half-acre lots all over the city.
Okay, I think this was from 2013. So those might have been grandfathered in, I don't know, but those are the current city code regulations, and there's enough for everyone if you want to continue to pass those around. This is what I passed out at the third sheet is the one from today, and the other two are from the last meeting.
Thank you.
In reference to lot size. I won't speak anymore about lot size, but I do want to address two items. One is that the Carpenter Lane that Keith talked about is not a county road. It's an easement. And it dates back a long time ago, and I don't have any history on it right now, but just to let you know, it is not a county-maintained road. They have come in and paved it, maybe for emergency vehicles, but officially, from what we've been told, it's an easement into that area of land. The other thing that I wanted to speak about is the road that's proposed through Hayes Commons from 1626 over to Bliss Spiller. We're in Chaparral Park, a lot of us here, and Chaparral Park comes from the subdivision dates back to the mid-1970s. Before that, it was the Pfluger Ranch, the Spiller Ranch, and the small Willie Farm. And we have had one road in and one road out. And it's very quiet, very secluded, and not very many people know about it, and we like it like that. Then comes along the 45 toll road, and unbeknownst to us in Chaparral Park, we understand that the city of Hayes requested there be an exit onto Bliss Spiller from 45. I created a meeting and I tried to go against that exit because I didn't want more people to know about our subdivision. And evidently, not enough information was provided to us, so the residents of Chaparral Park could not make an educated decision. And half the people wanted the exit and half the people didn't. So we left it at that, and we now have a second entrance to our subdivision. The road that is proposed from 1626 to Bliss Spiller will create a third entrance to our subdivision. And we really don't need any more traffic or additional motion through our neighborhood or awareness that we even exist back there. We especially don't want any through traffic cutting through because there's no way out at the other end, and we want to limit that. And so that road there that comes out from 1626 onto Bliss Spiller is a concern of ours.
Larry, I don't know what your time in that at, but last meeting, they said 5 minutes, so this is gonna clock in a little over 3, just warning you.
Ready to go.
Okay, so I just wanted to speak to the development code thing, not to keep beating up on you, but the development code for Hays City does call for minimum 1 acre lots. This code was authored by former Hays Mayor Bill Couch in compliance with the 1997 ETJ release agreement between Austin and Hays City. As a protective measure for our sole source of water, the aquifer now running beneath our feet. So my question is, why is Milestone seeking variance to this rule and in a rush to finalize this agreement? The proposed Hays Commons development lies almost exclusively upon the Edwards Aquifer Recharge Zone, with only a small portion of it being upon the transition zone. The development code of Hays County also calls for minimum 1 acre lot over the recharge zone, depending on the type of water system. Maybe it's 3/4, but it does not go lower than that. It only goes up from there. The surrounding neighborhoods depend upon this area of the recharge zone as our sole source of household water, and all of our surrounding neighborhoods have minimum acreage requirements for the safety of this water. So again, why is Milestone seeking variance to this rule and in a rush to finalize this agreement? At a recent meeting of the Buda City Council, which you can view in its entirety on the Buda City website, Hays County Commissioners Mark Jones and Walt Smith spoke about the work they are doing to change how future development happens in Hays County. Our current County Commissioner Walt Smith spoke about incentivizing developers to create smaller, less dense conservation developments, while requiring the developers and new residents of those developments to pick up the cost, so they do not continue to be passed along to the cities and current residents. The Commissioners Court intends to have this in place by the 3rd quarter of this year, which begins in July. The conservation development regulations which Commissioners spoke about incentivizing are already written into Hays County Code. They begin at page 195. You can all look them up on the web. And they already serve as a checklist of best practices in sensitive areas like the ones we are discussing. I'd like to share with you the statement of purpose for Hays County Conservation Development Code as it's written in the code. To allow for greater flexibility and creativity in the design of developments. To encourage the permanent preservation of open space, ranch and agricultural lands, woodlands and wildlife habitat, natural resources, and including aquifers, water bodies, and wetlands, and historical and archaeological resources to promote interconnected green space and corridors throughout the community. To protect community water supplies, to encourage a more efficient form of development that consumes less open land and conforms to existing topography and natural features better than a conventional subdivision. To facilitate the construction and maintenance of housing, streets, utilities, and public service in a more economical and efficient manner. To facilitate the provision of community services in a more economical and efficient manner. To foster stewardship of the land and wildlife in the county, and to preserve the vestiges of Central Texas rural and natural character remaining in Hays County. I think these are all things we can all agree on. Within a few months, these very things concerned citizens are fighting for will be supported by Hays County. This is a solid reason to pause forward motion in these development proposals in the best interest of the water, land, and the taxpayers. Within a few months, the county aims to incentivize conservation developments and require developers to pick up the costs they are currently trying to lock the cities and ultimately taxpayers into picking up. Any agreements finalized prior to this policy change by the county would be grandfathered. Please continue your diligent pursuit and examination of details to make sure this is done responsibly and in the best interests of the citizens most affected, particularly all of us that are on groundwater wells that are not going through some filtration system. Thank you for your time. I'm providing a copy of this for all the council members, and I do ask that it be included in the official public record of the meeting.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
So they've already proposed this, so once the proposal is submitted and then they actually agree to it, everything done after they proposed it will be grandfathered in?
Well, I mean, that's typical of any agreement, right? Like if you have something done before a policy change, it's grandfathered in.
I see.
So the conservation development regulations already exist in Hayes County Development Code. They start at page 195. It's like, I have one copy here if y'all want to pass it around. It's like 16 pages long. But right now, it's not required right now. But it's a very good checklist for best practices that already exist for situations like over the aquifer like we are talking
But
about.
it has been proposed.
Yes,
publicly.
yes, they spoke about it. You can look up the Buda City Council meeting is online. I think it's in the index below it. I think it's I-2 is the index number. And you can see the commissioners talking openly to Buda City Council about this and stating that their aim is to have this in place by Q3
By
of this year.
July,
Yeah.
You were saying. So
By Q3 is what they said. Q3 starts in
Okay,
July.
Third quarter?
Yeah.
So they expect this to pass?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm going to pass these around if that's okay, if I can see what I'm doing.
Once again, council, mayor, thank you for allowing us to speak and tell you about our concerns. For those that don't know me, my name is Jim Camp. My wife and I have owned a home and a property at 3803 Cattleman Drive for over 37 years. In that time, I've served on the Barton Springs Board representing Hayes. I've served with the Hayes County Parks and Open Space Commission in 3 different iterations in 20 years. So I believe in building partnerships. I believe in solving problems, and I believe in us doing it in a community-based way. Let me just ask, I heard that a geological assessment's been done on the property, and feel free to ask me any questions. If I can answer, I will. A geological assessment's been done on the property, and if so, I think it was done by ACI. Have they shared that geological assessment? You referred to it as something else.
Environmental resource inventory.
Is it basically the same thing?
Would be a component.
Karst, environmental features,
Correct.
caves, sinkholes and such?
Yeah, the ERI is more comprehensive because it also looks at endangered species, wetlands,
Okay.
any other features, but yes, it would include the.
Boy, we'd love to participate in any discussions about, your future and our future. I've had conversations with some of the Barton Springs board members, especially Dan Pickens, who represents us here, and also some of the top scientists on their staff. And they said they would love to get this kind of information, data, maps, and they could work with Milestone to, put in a really good development that protects us all, our water, our roads, the Little Bear Creek and such. I had a couple of questions. I know that 4 wells have been drilled and initially tested with the district. They are about a half a mile or a mile from many of our properties, which I think Ms. Starr mentioned that we have, 75 or more private wells in the area. So what I'm wondering is, would the Milestone, as I guess the new landowners of these 4 wells, would they be willing, when they test it, to go before the district for a public water supply system, would they be willing to monitor our wells in the test process? That could tell us a lot about the impacts of 4 Lower Trinity wells, the kind of water that's going to serve literally hundreds of homes and commercial development. We'd love to be part of that assessment if we can work that out. Let me ask a couple of questions about wastewater. Did you all mention, I guess Keith mentioned the volume of wastewater proposed, so I won't go into that. I have a question about the placement of the TLAP lines. y'all had a map, but I couldn't see it in any great detail. I have a couple questions. Will the lines be located within 100 feet from the center line of the creek? And will the lines be placed in a 25 or 100-year floodplain? So,
No to the floodplain question. There's a crossing, a perpendicular crossing of Little Bear, and the reason we don't want to open cut is because there are sensitive features all along the
and this is where you're going to have that placement of the 60 acres?
So on the other side of Little Bear,
Okay.
on the south side of Little Bear is where the 60 acres are, and away from the tributaries. So there's minimum distances by state rule, but there's also minimum distances by city rule.
Okay. Are you all familiar with the Belterra development on Bear Creek? Okay. The city of Austin and other parties agreed to do some water quality monitoring downstream. Would the city of Hayes and Milestone be willing to do the same thing if this development is approved and a treatment plant is built and TLAP lines are developed?
I can't speak for my clients, but
I mean, is it something you'd be open to discussing
of course.
in the coming weeks or months or whatever? Okay, very good. And I was just wondering if the city of Hayes and the developer are willing to adopt measures from the Texas Water Development Board, best management practices in municipal water conservation. It was adopted in February of 2020, and there's a website, and I can share with you the website. So what I'm basically saying in essence is, I'd love to work with you all, I'd love to get as much information as possible. If you can bring in the public, as well as the elected leaders, I think this is a win-win situation. And I've got these questions if you'd like to,
Jim, can I say one other thing about wastewater disposal that we've done on a number of developments that have TLAPs is something called beneficial reuse. And what that entails is no additional treatment because we're already treating to a level sufficient for that, but it allows you to irrigate areas like right-of-ways, landscape beds, things like that, and replace what would be potable or raw well water use with treated effluent. And so you can't do it at first because you don't have enough effluent. You basically have enough to just grow your fields in, but as you grow the development, you can start doing that beneficial reuse as well. And that's a common feature on these developments west and western Travis.
yeah, and it's common throughout the country. It's in El Paso, Texas, and other places. One thing I want to just state, Mayor, just one thing. Please, I just, 1 minute. For years, I've been involved with these development projects and such, and it's real easy to say septic tanks are polluting the aquifer. There's no studies that show that. There's some anecdotal cases where Rolling Wood and a few others had leaking septic tanks, but really, it's oftentimes a false argument to say, well, we've got to get everyone off septic tanks, just put them onto a sewage treatment plant and a TLAP line. That may not be a simple answer to the solution, but that's about all I have. Thank you.